My name is Hedya. I'm a kindergarten teacher full-time and a part-time comedian and a survivor of domestic violence and post-separation abuse.
And I'm Sarah. I'm a social worker at Women for Women.
I would describe myself as somebody who is resilient and positive and has a really great sense of humor. That's what I've learned about myself.
I know your life is chaotic and you have a lot going on and your job is not helpful for that, but is there something that brings you joy? What do you feel?
I think what some of the things that bring me joy are the stand-up comedy, which I discovered in the entire mess of the last few years. I love to make people laugh. I love bringing people together, I would say. That brings me peace, like finding community, building community, and dancing. I love to dance. So yeah, that is what I would say brings me peace.
Yeah.
Like I love community building. I'm actually planning like a little Ramadan meetup with people on social media. So like I think when I get to choose, it also depends on the people. Like you guys, like I'm so happy I found you guys. And then sometimes I just need to be alone, but I think that's normal. I feel like that's most people. But I thrive in like community, in my classroom, when working with the kids.
You probably just need to like decompress.
Oh yeah. Oh, at the end of the day, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm like, I don't want to talk to anybody.
That's understandable. Yeah.
What's one word you use to describe where you are now?
I would say rebuilding. We're trying. Rebuilding and living. Like living. It's been a lot of surviving. So right now, I would say rebuilding and living is where I'm trying to be.
Yeah.
Let's move into the space of sharing your story about the abuse. Was there a moment when you look back to where you realized something wasn't right?
I would say in hindsight, the worst, when I really started to realize that things weren't okay, was after we got our dog. I remember texting his mother and saying, I feel like I'm with an abuser. So I never really, I still didn't put it together as I was with one. That was like the first time where I think I had expressed it, that I feel like I'm with one. And then during the lockdown was really like the big aha moment, like something's gotta change, because we were living together and that's when he had gone like very physical. This one particular moment, he like towered over me and tried to drag me across the kitchen, and then locked me out on the balcony. I would say that was like a big aha moment, but then I still, I guess it's the trauma bond, like I still made excuses for him, still chalked it up to, the collective trauma of the pandemic and everything. It's really after we broke up that I finally started to come to terms with like, okay, yeah, this is abusive. But those were like the little aha moments along the way that I still somehow found myself excusing. And after that big physical moment, 2 days later I baked him a lasagna and a chocolate cake because I thought, this was a one-off. But it's not until after we broke up and he sued me for the dog that I'm like, oh wait, that wasn't the first time he was physical with me. Like he had pushed me in Harlem years before, like right after we got engaged, on his brother's birthday. And it's just crazy because when you're in it with them, you're trauma bonded and you forget. But I would say pandemic, living together was like the second aha moment where I was like, something's gotta give. And then we were supposed to take space, so he went up to his mom's house. And it was horrible for me because even though he had done all that, I was like, I can't believe this is ending. Is it ending? It was very confusing. And then he just never came home. Which, like, I kind of sparked the fire. Now in hindsight, I wonder if that's why he got, like, worse. Because I kind of was the one that put the one foot out the door, expecting him to, I don't know, try to heal and grow and, do what I was trying to do and come back. But yeah, the pandemic was like, that's when it started to really click, and then the post-separation abuse and the stuff after is when I really, like, once we were able to get space, I would say that's when I started to realize what was going on and how I would be way better off without him. So I like to say that the best thing he ever did for me was never come home, because that's how the veil was able to like lift from my eyes. Because now I'm like, how did this man physically assaulted you and you baked him a lasagna and a 2-tier chocolate cake, you know, like, but yeah.
It's a big realization.
Yeah.
What did you learn about yourself through this journey? It sounds like a lot.
Yes. I learned that I'm really strong and resilient. I learned that, you know, while I'm not perfect by any means and I have my flaws, I actually am good enough, and oh God, I'm already getting emotional, that, you know, I'm strong, I'm resilient, I'm funny. I have all these positive characteristics that when I was with him and in that environment, he was breaking down, whether he was doing it consciously or not, you know? So I was blamed for everything. I was always a problem, but what I've learned is that I am way stronger and more resilient than I've ever known. And if you asked me to describe myself back in like 2020, I wouldn't tell you that I was positive, because I was so anxious and so negative, and you know, and what I've realized is that I was just in an environment that was not allowing me to heal and to grow and to be who I truly am and have always been, but just never got to explore. So.
You said that you found Woman for Woman.
Yes.
So how did that?
Did you guys find me?
That was a strange story. I feel like Juliet over the summer ran into someone in Spain.
Yeah, so I think my partner teacher had actually mentioned you guys to me last school year, because I was dealing with, you know, the active, still to this day, defamation case and readjusting to being back to teaching, because I had left because of the cyber stalking and everything. So I didn't think anything of it, and then when Juliet and my partner teacher ran into each other, it was like fate. And honestly, it really was. So I really feel very lucky for that. Because it was like dealing with the last few years, like virtually essentially by myself, was like horrible. So it finally felt like, oh my goodness, I don't have to do all of this alone. So I'm really, really glad that happened.
We're glad too. I think a lot of the struggle can be isolation.
Yes.
You know, that adds to it. Most of the women that come to us have no one that they can talk to.
Right.
Yeah. So.
And I think that's a big thing with abuse and domestic violence, is that like people just don't understand it unless they've experienced it. And some people, even if they have experienced it, they haven't either found their voice or done the work, or maybe they haven't even realized, like I hadn't really realized that I was in an abusive relationship, you know? So then it's like a trigger, or they can't meet you where you are, so it is really, really isolating, and I think that's probably one of the hardest parts about it.
Yeah, and I think for us as an organization, we should do more to reach more women and inform them, even just what are these difficult personalities, what does abuse look like, how to know if things are not right, what are the red flags, because sometimes we don't know, the boundaries are blurry, we don't always know, we don't always wake up aware of that, you know, as you were saying.
And I think people think that abuse is like, you know, he put his hands on me, or she or they put their hands on me, and it's like, it's a very slow build up. Like I consider myself very lucky in a lot of ways that I was able to get out physically, you know, because it's just a gradual, I think had we stayed in that cycle, had he not come home, I think that I would have somehow, I think, been roped in. Like if he had come home, I think the cycle wouldn't have been broken. But the fact that I got to move out helped me to like open my eyes. But I didn't know anything about abuse really, like about emotional abuse and financial and coercive, and it starts very slowly. Like they don't just come out here and hit you on the first day, you know? So I think that's why people have a bit of a hard time with it, and they might never even hit you. Like it be verbal, emotional, psychological. So.
Just as damaging.
Exactly.
Sometimes more.
Sometimes more.
That's really interesting how you speak about that you wouldn't have left if he came home. So that's really powerful, and you found your peace without him. What's your takeaway from that, and how can you support others who maybe their abuser does come home? What did you learn in those moments?
I think it's so important to try to find a way to leave, but it's not always that easy. Obviously, I think the statistic is like women try to leave like 7 times. I think it's like awareness and like documenting everything and having like safe people that you can tell everything to. And if I could do it again if I could go back in hindsight, I would definitely like journal more, document more, because they make you feel like you're losing your mind. I think the biggest thing that you need from them is space. But if you don't know that they're abusing you, you don't know that you need to get space. Mm-hmm. So I think it's like awareness and education, and then documenting everything and like safely trying to find an exit plan without telling them your plan, because they will use that against you. But yeah, I would say like getting yourself educated and informed, having a safe person that you could tell everything to. Like my best friend Sam, she's the only one I told when he like physically assaulted me, and I'm so glad that I did, because otherwise like I'd be like driving myself crazy. Did that really happen? Did that, so having a safe, non-judgmental person, and then if you are realizing that you are being abused or you're thinking about it, like space, minimal like interaction and going back and forth with them, they call it, and then there's people that have children, they call it gray rocking, I guess, which is like where you only talk about what you have to and like you kind of put on a face, until you're able to leave.
So you speak of support and you speak of Sam, so how did she help you in these ways? And it's so important to have someone.
Oh man, I feel so bad every time I think about like how much we were partner teachers at my old school, and we were virtual. It was the lockdown, and we were constantly talking and constantly working together. And when he physically assaulted me that time, like I was in the middle of like texting her and we were talking, and thank God I texted her because I said he just smacked me. And then she got on the phone with me when, after he like tried to drag me. I don't know how it like got de-escalated, but then I was chain smoking cigarettes on our balcony, and he locked me out, and it was like April, I think. It was still kind of cold. So I was talking to her, and just a lot of it was her being there for me, like on Zoom, and just, I feel so bad, like the erratic texts that I would send her at like midnight, and she just always listened, whereas not a lot of people felt safe, because like I had friends when we got engaged that like literally were like, what the F are you thinking? Like, I don't support this. And in hindsight, I get it, like, because you're getting back and forth together with this person, you're staying in this cycle, and your friends are like, what the hell are you doing? This person's not good for you. And those friends since have apologized, but then what that does is like, that made me not want to tell that, so Sam was literally the only person that I told everything to, and I feel so bad because she took so much of it on, and she even testified against him in the hearing for the dog. And when he was allegedly cyber stalking me, she was one of his targets, but had it not been for her being there for me not even before the pandemic, like through our fights and everything, I would have felt so alone. And his mother and him, they kind of like, they groomed me, which is what they do, into silence, right? Like, oh, his mom said like, I'm so glad you came to me instead of your friends. And my ex would say like, don't talk to my family about this, because we're gonna get over it. And they're not. So to me, in hindsight, that's grooming. But Sam, she was my safe, non-judgmental person who was always willing to listen. And I feel so bad because like I was just constantly calling her and texting her, and she was checking in. But had I not told her all of this, like with the gaslighting and stuff, I would have been like, did it really happen? Like I have one picture with my dog where I had like a bruise like right here from when it happened, maybe one picture with the red, because at the point I thought I was being abused, but I wasn't sure. Although I could swear I documented more pictures. But she was like my person. Like, you have to have at least one safe person. But that's why I think it's so important to advocate and educate the public, you know, because they don't know what they're doing, and there's a lot of like victim blaming and gaslighting and just not believing people either. I mean, we see that on a grand scale now, obviously. Like, but she heard me and she listened, and you know, I kept on going back to her even though it was a lot, and I feel so guilty now, but you know, without her, I don't know what I would have done. So
Yeah, she's a good friend.
Yeah, I'm glad you had a Sam.
Yeah.
Also, leaning on support, how did Women for Women support you?
Oh my goodness. I mean, just helping me break down all the many tasks that I have. Just hearing me. I mean, you helped me draft the email, right? To leave after school, because I was just taking on too much. The clothing drive, because like from all the stress, I don't fit into most of my clothes anymore. And just like having someone validate you and having someone kind of like ground you, and you know, for me personally, and I'm sure a lot of other survivors are probably the same way, like I carry a lot of the guilt and the shame, and I'm trying really hard not to, and I'm really hard on myself, but Sarah, you've been so amazing at making me realize like, okay, but you're just dealing with a lot, you know. So yeah, you guys have helped me like break things down. I've made some really great connections. You know, it's just like I think one of like my trauma responses, and I think this is common, is like hyper independence, and so I, you know, try to take on everything by myself because I don't want to feel like a burden on others, and I'm really bad at asking for help. So, you know, Women for Women is like, how can we help you? And I'm like, okay, well, since you're asking, you know, since you asked, where do you want me to start? So yeah.
Yeah, it seems like you guys have like a really nice relationship.
Yeah.
How important do you think it is to connect with maybe a social worker, a therapist,
Oh my
like
God.
amazing Sarah?
Yes. Oh my, you have to. You have to. And I think also what's really great about Women for Women is that it's kind of one-stop shop, you know, like finding, like I've looked for victim advocacy groups before, and you know, especially with like the dog lawsuit and this lawsuit and whatever, but they're so inundated. I think everybody's really inundated, and so it's like, and it's also just extra, it's so much work, like there's no mainstream way of like, you know, but Sarah and Women for Women, you guys are like, okay, you need help with this, well, we've got this connection and that and this source that we can tie you in with, because I think the most helpful thing for a survivor is to have someone help with the tasks and stuff, because it is so many things that we have to do, and it's hard. And I think also having a therapist or a social worker who understands is really important. I wish everybody would have access to that. If I didn't have like a really good therapist and I didn't have you, I mean, I don't know, like my current therapist, she's an EMDR therapist. Before that, I had somebody who was new, and I think having a therapist that's not trauma informed is almost worse than having no therapist. But so I think it's really important to have somebody who understands this and who comes from a trauma informed lens too. It makes a world of difference, because you're like, okay, I'm not crazy. You know, there's nothing wrong with me. I went through a lot of stuff, and I need someone to help me guide me through it. Yeah.
Definitely. Through a trauma
Yeah.
lens. Yeah.
Exactly.
This is very different.
Especially through a trauma-informed lens.
Yes, absolutely.
Because my old therapist told me to negotiate with my ex about my dog, and I wish I never did that, because it would have saved me a lot. Yeah, a lot.
So speaking of healing and therapists, and I know you spoke about comedy.
Yeah.
What are things you find today that are healing and heal you? How do you heal today?
How do I would say, yeah, the EMDR therapy, and that's like, we haven't done the light bar in a while, but to try to kind of like process out, that's a big one. She also taught me a lot of strategies and things to prepare for the light bar. So I would say EMDR therapy has been really helpful. I work out. There's a huge difference in my mood when I don't work out and when I do. dancing, which is hard to do during Ramadan, but I wake up and I dance in the mirror instead of out in the club or something. And comedy, I love doing the stand-up. I really fell into that when I was on a leave from teaching, and it just, I get a lot of joy and comfort from that, and just taking, I think it's really important to take what you've been through and use it as your purpose, or alchemize it. And for me, it's telling jokes about it, and I'm trying to be better about journaling. I've been doing it more 'cause I've always been a writer, and I think it's important to write it out, but I think because I was or am still dealing with it, with the abuse and whatnot, the post-separation, the litigation, all that stuff, it is a lot harder, but definitely makes a big difference, to have all the thoughts in a place, an outlet to process them out, whether it's my journal, my comedy notebook, the gym, having a place for all that stuff to go, I think.
Yeah. I mean, you must be so proud of yourself. I'm sitting here and I'm just in awe of how you've taken this and spun this. Truly. So, what are you working on, and what are you proud of for yourself?
Oh God, you can tell I have a lot to work through with when it comes to compliments and working on accepting those. I am really proud of myself because it has been hell. The last few years have been hell. I feel despite them being hell, I've still managed to accomplish a lot. I haven't accomplished everything that I've wanted to, because I've had to, pivot a lot from my original dreams and just put them on hold. But, I started producing my comedy show, Heckling Hand, last May, and even though I wish I could do more for it and raise more money for the causes, I'm in the middle of dealing with socioeconomic aftermath and a really high stress job, and my ex still currently actively suing me for defamation and all the stuff he did to mess with my social media reach. I've still managed to have my Heckling Hand comedy for a cause. That's my baby. There's been so many things I wanted to do that I put on hold, and this is the one where I'm no, I'm gonna do it. And it's been happening, and the 1 year anniversary is in May. I'm also really proud that I haven't let this turn me into him, if that makes sense. I still believe in the good of people, and and it's I've been able to produce my comedy show, go back to teaching, even though yes, it's high stress and the classroom is high stress, but that it's still at the same time been healing, and I've managed to do all this while dealing with payroll issues and this defamation case. And so I guess my resilience and my refusal to give up, even though I'm so tired. I haven't let it keep me down, and I refuse to let it keep me down. So
You're a star.
thank you.
I guess looking back, what would you tell yourself?
That it's not your fault. That's a big one. I'm still working on that one. I'll find myself saying well, if I never got back together with him, maybe that, or if this, or if we didn't, but I'm sure the cycle would have continued somehow. So I would tell myself, it's not your fault, and you deserve better, and you are good enough. I would say those are 3 things I would tell me. Leave sooner. Yeah. A big struggle is society, people, family, friends, just that don't know. They will silence you because they're well, you're talking about it because you're not over it. You're talking, no, it's it's so important to be able to talk about it, and to, I don't know, for me, and I think for a lot of survivors, there's really healing in that community and talking about it to each other, or helping. To me, I wouldn't have learned anything about abuse if it wasn't for people that were sharing their stories online. So to me, it's me talking about it is also paying it forward.
Absolutely.
So.
There's power in community.
Exactly.
There's power in sharing your story.
Yes, and I think that's like you said in the beginning, the isolation is the worst part, and the abuser isolates you. People that don't understand it isolate you. If you choose to heal publicly, which I never knew until I started doing that, random people will silence you, and people will think all these negative things about you. That's another word of advice is you have to really find out who you are and you know, especially after they break you down, you don't really know. And like not let other people internalize and project onto you. I would say that's been a big challenge, but very important to do.
What is the last sentence you want to end on today?
I would say you are more than your story, or I am more than my story, but my story also deserves to be heard, and it's still in the process of being written, and it deserves a happy ending. So we're working for that happy ending.
Yeah.